I'm the CEO of China Biomedical and Technology Education Association, which I founded 20 years ago. Welcome to World IPF 2025. Our panel is Patenting Biotech and Pharmaceutical Invention, Navigating the Complexity. In today's rapidly advanced technology landscape, biotech and pharmaceutical stands at the forefront innovation. As researchers and scientists uncover groundbreaking discovery, and the importance of securing intellectual property rights for this invention become paramount. However, navigating the complexity of patenting in this highly specialized domain research requires a unique set of challenges. So for understanding the intricacies of patent law to ensure compliance with the regulatory framework, stakeholders must definitely maneuver through a maze of legal, ethical, and scientific considerations. So this journey is essentially not only to protect the fruits of science labor, but also to foster an environment that encourages continued innovation and development. Join us as we delve into the multifaceted world of patented biotechnology and pharmaceutical inventions and explore the strategy to overcome the hurdle along the long way. Today we have 6 esteemed experts in this panel. It's Mr. Michael Fuller from Knobbe Martens, USA, and Dr. Manny Roy from Cooley's LLP, USA, and Mr. Divya Shekhar from Dependence, India, Mr. Avi Garg from Les Obis, India, and Mrs. Suman Prasad from LS Devi Corporate, India, and also Mr. Vadim Kuala from NCO Association of Pharmaceutical Company. And our panelists will introduce themselves first, and they will tell you their expertise, preponderance, and records, so you can observe their expertise, and after when we open the Q&A, it will be very easy to learn from them and ask the right question to benefit yourself for this conference. And today we will also penetrating the issues such as jurisdiction-specific complexities, subject matter eligibility, and patentability criteria, and enablement requirements, written description, regulatory and policy interference, and also AI impacts on this innovation and other IPR settle regarding marketing, legal aspects, law enforcement practice, and also some court cases sharing. So now we pass the floor to Mr. Michael Fuller for introducing himself.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the conference. We appreciate you being here. When we got together to discuss this panel, we talked about wanting to ensure that we invite you all to give questions, particularly in a relatively small room like this one. We're hoping for interaction with everybody in the audience. That makes for a better panel. So if you have questions, if you have things you want to discuss as we're all giving our presentations, our talks, and answering questions, please raise your hand. Please, give your comments. We invite you to participate with us in this. So I'm Michael Fuller. I'm a partner with U.S. law firm Knobbe Martens. If you're not familiar with us, we're one of America's largest intellectual property-only law firms. So we're about 300 attorneys, which is small for U.S. law firm size, but very large for law firms that only practice intellectual property. About half of our lawyers are full-time litigators in court, and about half are client practice like myself. So what I do is everything other than go to court. My background's in computer science and molecular biology. So as AI has started to rise up in the world, my clients are now moving, my pharma clients are moving now into AI spaces. They are starting to use AI as a tool, as you hear out in the public and in all of the different news and articles you're seeing, AI being just a phenomenal tool for almost everything. And what's been really interesting to me is seeing not only the rise of AI in biotech, but also the rise of biotech in AI companies. So what I mean by that is you're seeing companies like Meta, which is Facebook, and Google, which is Google, doing biotech work in AI. Both of those companies now have very large language models for folding proteins. Right? If you want to look at how a protein folds, Meta and Google both have some of the top systems for that, and you wonder why. And it's, I think, part of their way of showing expertise. And so in my practice, my clients are now, like those companies, using AI in almost everything. And so I'll stop blathering on now and pass the microphone off to Manny to let.
Sorry, can I just ask one quick question on the first presentation about the monoclonal antibody case, which is interesting. I was just, is the reason for the allowability because there was a sequence difference, there was some structural difference with the monoclonal antibody as opposed to the endogenous antibody, or was it merely the fact that there was human intervention going on, and they could be identical, but since there's human intervention, it's allowable. And I'd be great if we reminded of the position in the US about that as well, actually. That's interesting.
Sure. So there's now, of course, as everyone has read, AI is becoming extremely important in almost every industry. And with regard to the pharmaceutical industry, it's really changing a lot of the innovations that we're starting to see. So what was being done with wet science in testing whether certain receptors would be able to bind to a library of binders, ligands, that wet science is moving to artificial intelligence, right? Now, clients, pharma, large pharma, is instead of doing wet science to match tens or hundreds of thousands of ligands to receptors, they're training artificial intelligence models, AI models, to understand what those binding reactions look like, and then using that to develop products that they're testing, to develop new ligands without having to do all of the lab work. And so they're screening compounds now, doing that work. And then, of course, they want to be able to file for protection on those things. And what comes up with those discussions is, do we want a trade secret for that? Do we want to file for trades? Do we want to file? Do we want to have trade secret protection, or do we want to go to the expense of filing for patent applications? And what we're looking at now with that area of pharma is to figure out what's going to be public-facing and what's not going to be public-facing. Certainly, you want to patent anything that's coming out into the public and being used by the public, because trying to keep it as a trade secret is very difficult. But what I'm finding in intellectual property now, more likely, is my clients are keeping trade secret what those kinds of screening assays look like, how those AI models are working, what they're doing inside their companies, because they don't want to tell their competitors. Right? They don't want to make it easier for their pharma competitors to screen for compounds quickly and effectively. If they're developing systems that do that, they don't want to disclose that. And, of course, the other aspect of all this is, when we're talking about intellectual property, we're talking about not protecting what you're doing necessarily, but stopping other people. When we're talking about patents, they're only good for stopping others. And a lot of clients sort of keep their focus more internal when they should be looking more external. They should be looking more about, what should I be filing because I can prevent someone, I can exclude my competitors, and I can develop some more benefits for my company and exclusivity by having this IP, as opposed to just trying to protect what I've developed. Certainly when you're protecting a drug, that's an easy call, right? You're going to make the drug, you're going to sell the drug, you're going to deliver the drug, that's easier. When it's software, when it's analysis, it's a little more difficult. And what I'm seeing my clients now evaluating is when to trade secret and when to file for patent protection. And the terrific aspects of AI are now, they're being implemented in almost everything because it works so well. So the example I give is implantable defibrillators, right, which is a device that surgeons implant next to your heart for people who have what are called afibrillations, where their heart doesn't beat properly, and you need to shock it. And the question is always, well, you don't want people walking around and getting shocked improperly. You want to know when the heart is actually going into afibrillation and not you're just jogging or skiing or doing something that's changing your heart. You're not just having a minor heart palpitation, because the shock, it's like paddles on your chest when you talk about a defibrillator that you've got out in the you see it everywhere in every building. It's the same thing. It's just built into you. It's just in your chest. And so you don't want to be walking down the street and getting shocked like that unless it should be shocked. You're really in fibrillation. And so they are now building AI models to be much more accurate at detecting those things. And that's the kind of innovation that clients want to be protecting. The challenge we have in the United States is that patenting software is an absolute travesty. We were just talking about patentable subject matter in India and Russia and other places, but patenting software applications is extraordinarily difficult because the patent office says it's just not patentable subject matter. I'm circling back to what the conversation just was. But in the United States, I can draft a claim that says a computer system, it has a memory and a hard drive and a software that looks for fibrillation signals and generates defibrillation output, and the patent office will say that's not the kind of thing you can patent. That's not patentable subject matter. It's just an algorithm. It's just something you could do in your mind. You could think about how to calculate those values. It's really pretty, in my mind, of doing this a long time. I think Manny would agree with me that our court system has made it really, really challenging for companies to obtain IP in the U.S. for really innovative stuff, really things that you would think otherwise should be patentable. You can get the patents in China and Korea and Japan and all sorts of other countries, just not in the United States. And it's been very, very difficult. So the rise of AI has been phenomenal in this industry, in the pharma industry, for advancing products, but a very, very difficult thing to obtain patents on in the United States. You can obtain them outside, but in the United States, very, very challenging.
Thank you, Vadim, for educating us about the Eurasian pattern. As we are aware, artificial intelligence is a popular topic in every domain. Emerging technology has forced the law system to change, and AI creates many issues for us to rethink the definition of intellectual property rights. Nevertheless, AI also impacts the way to patent biotech and pharma inventions. May our esteemed colleagues to talk about the AI influence on pharmaceutical and biotechnology patents. We will pass the floor to Michael. Michael, please. Thank you, Vadim. After those issues discussion, Michael would like to share some interesting court case. So, please.
Thank you. So, instead of sharing specific court cases, I want to talk and help you understand a little bit about the directionality of intellectual property protection in the U.S. What's happening? And in the U.S., the issue we have is we have two very wealthy different groups of IP holders: the pharma industry and the high-tech industry. And they both have very different goals for intellectual property, and they both have a lot of money to lobby our Congress and to take cases to our Supreme Court. And The challenge is that their different perspectives are leading to a lot of different outcomes. So what are those perspectives? The pharma industry, this industry we're talking about today, wants very strong patents, very strong claims that are broad, that are difficult to challenge, because they have relatively few patents protecting very important drugs, right? Their value is the IP and their ability to protect those drugs through litigation, stopping competitors, stopping generics. Okay. The high-tech side in the US has the opposite problem. Their problem is they're building products like this phone that has thousands of patents in it, and they're getting sued by what we call trolls. They're getting sued by companies that acquired a patent from a university, acquired a patent from a defunct company, and are suing them. Apple is the #1 most sued company in the US, gets sued about every single day by somebody that owns a patent. So high-tech companies want relatively weaker patents. Not weak, not dead, but they want the ability to challenge them. They want the ability to invalidate claims. And so the problem we've had in the US is that it's been very difficult to change our legislation to improve the strength of patents. We've had legislation been proposed for 10 years, maybe more, about changing patentable subject matter so that the claims and everything will be stronger. We had a proposal at Congress and in committees last year, okay, that got very close. We were hoping it would get through before the current administration came in, that's in the US now, and we're concerned that maybe our Congress might be distracted for the next 4 years. We'll see if we can get some of our legislation through. But the directionality of the court cases is the high-tech industry is winning. They are basically been able to have courts decide to weaken our IP, make it easier to challenge, make patents less, being able to have patents protect innovations less by changing what is patentable subject matter. I complained about that earlier. And so the directionality of the court cases in the US has been, for the most part, weakening intellectual property protections. The high-tech industry is trying to keep that going, as the pharma industry, the industry we're sitting and talking about today, is trying to fight back through legislation and other things to make those protections stronger. Most of us in the industry are hoping to make it stronger. We believe that strong intellectual property protection is what allows us to be innovative, to encourage innovation. If you look at our diagnostic industry, right now diagnostics are not patentable in the U.S. Just claiming a device that determines whether a particular mutation is present or not, and tells you if you're likely to have cancer, that kind of invention is just not patentable in the U.S. It's patentable almost everywhere else, but not in the United States. And so my clients who were protecting their diagnostics are just not generally protecting them anymore, at least in the U.S., because there isn't an ability to do so. And so it becomes, or you can protect them with very, very specific claims. So unfortunately what we're seeing with the court cases now is, I believe, the wrong direction, weakening IP, but we were and hopefully will remain hopeful that we can get legislation through our Congress that will amend our statutes to allow for more protection, stronger protection. A greater question?
Yes. Do you think it's a lobbying or more of nature of each industry. Like pharmaceutical industry is more focusing on very specific high homology stuff that it's really you have to close all the gaps and all the leaks in what you are protecting, while the high tech is really inventing almost everything. They keep inventing and protecting because things keep changing so quick, and also there are a lot of alternatives and variations of the same invention. So do you think it's more of a lobbying that somehow, because of the, that's how they want it, as you said, it's low strength, or it's more of the nature of the industry?
Well, I'm jaded because I think that stronger IP protection is good, but the industry, the high-tech industry, has been promoting systems that allow you to challenge patents much more easily in the United States, for example. And whereas the pharma industry is trying to not allow such challenges to go through so easily. And so they just both have different goals because they have different problems, right? The high-tech industry, they generally are not suing each other. IBM isn't suing Apple, and Apple isn't suing Facebook and Meta. And they're not suing each other. Their problem is that their products have so much technology in them that there's always going to be patents, third-party patents, that they potentially are infringing. And they want to maintain the ability to knock those patents out as they can.
My name is Shaul. I'm from Georgia. So if we are discussing regarding the combination patents, you told Mike that it's a combination between the software and the technical tools. When I get to the classical themes from IT technology, so this is a combination software and technical units. What happens with novelty? Because in some countries, when examiners estimate the novelty requirements, the technical part of this invention is not so new, but the new one is the software. And a role of software novelty is sometimes very important to make a decision that the requirements novelty is okay. What happens with pharmaceutical combinations with the softwares? Do you have some practice on that? Can you estimate what the chances to make the positive decisions regarding the novelty if most role in the novelty depends from the novelty of software?
So the novelty is not usually the problem. And so in the U.S., they can't reject you for novelty, for lacking novelty, unless they have a reference of some sort to say that it's not novel. And so in this new world, just like when every new technology rises up, there's almost no prior art. There's very little prior art. So at least in the U.S., novelty is not the problem. The problem
what inventive step?
They will argue inventive step, but you can make a lot of arguments against inventive step, like commercial success, unexpected results. In pharma, you can make a lot of arguments. What I tell my clients is, if this is a successful product, you will overcome inventive step because you'll convince the patent office that, it may take a while, you'll convince them that it works much better. If it's not better, you won't be on market anyway. You'll be able to get the patent. The problem will be patentable subject matter, enablement, written description, those issues, not novelty and obviousness.
Thank you.